I can't believe you actually said that somebody should be locked away in jail forever for schizophrenia. Did you really say that?
Isolated.
Did you really say that?
In an institution.
Is this actually
institutionalized? What you're saying is that this man should have been roaming the streets.
I'm saying that you don't lock people in prison for schizophrenia.
Hey guys, so CNN has been forced to discuss the horrific stabbing and murder of the 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee, Irina Zarutska, because it's all over the news. Vice President J.D. Vance is talking about it. President Donald Trump is talking about it. So they assembled a panel on Abby Phillips's show to sort of talk about the murder, but mostly to blame one of the panelists for daring to suggest that violent schizophrenics should be locked up for life away from everyone else. So you have to hear this discussion because it is totally ridiculous, but also totally typical of CNN just getting everything wrong.
Absolutely. One of the discussions that we've had earlier this week is that one of the failures that we have is that we have not figured out how to actually provide that kind of care. That, if someone is actually seriously mentally ill, maybe on the verge of violence, where do they go?
We're unwilling to
put
or North Carolina, not on the verge of violence, actually demonstrated violence in the past and nobody flagged it. Actually, the police, to your point, said, we're going to refer you to more resources, and that went nowhere. So there were multiple...
What do you mean nobody flagged it? He served time for his violent offenses.
Not for his schizophrenia.
Why?
That's not a crime.
No, I know, but I'm saying that was compounding this entire issue.
Yeah,
the fact that he lashed out violently on that train.
I know. I'm just saying he did actually serve time for the violent offenses that he committed.
But he was a career criminal, a repeat offender who was let back onto our streets despite a really bad criminal record that suggests he should have been locked away for life because he was threatening the public. He was a menace to society.
He should have been locked away for life for what now?
He should have schizophrenia.
You want him to?
You actually said that.
Okay, so they're about to get extremely offended, and I like how feminine his response to is, you actually said that? Oh my gosh, I can't believe you just... I mean, it's the sole recourse that leftists have is not to respond to your argument, but to just put on an emotional show of offense. This is the classic way that the left shuts down discussion. They are not going to argue the point. Instead, they're going to say, you're a bad person for raising that point because it's so far off the table of normal discussion that we shouldn't even talk about it. But this guy, who is alleged to have stabbed and murdered this innocent girl, had an extraordinary criminal record. I mean, his rap sheet stretches back to when he was a minor. It includes 14 arrests. It includes jail time for robbery with a dangerous weapon. And allegedly, after he was sprung from jail, he turned around and immediately assaulted his sister. And we know that he was roaming the streets on cashless bail because he had called the cops to his home and he had told them that a man-made material was controlling him, was inside his body and controlling him. So this is clearly a man with intense schizophrenic delusions. This is a man with a long history of violence, and if not violence, the willingness to break the law. And this magistrate, Teresa Stokes, who, by the way, did not have to pass the bar. All you need in North Carolina to become a magistrate is a bachelor's degree. Teresa Stokes looked at this guy and said, do you promise that you're going to show up to court? And the guy said, yeah. And she said, well, okay. A guy who believes that man-made material inside his body is controlling him. I mean, it's totally absurd. Obviously, this man cannot be trusted. So let's continue with the panel as it dissolves into total chaos over the suggestion that, yes, somebody who is not in touch with reality and who is a danger to others and who has proven both those facts over the course of his 34 years on this earth should be sequestered away from everyone else.
I can't believe you actually said that somebody should be locked away in jail forever for schizophrenia. Did you really say that?
Isolated.
Did you really say that?
In an institution.
Is this actually...
Institutionalized. What you're saying is that this man should have been roaming the streets.
I'm saying that you don't lock people in prison for schizophrenia.
An institution.
What kind of institution? Institutions in terms of mental health care services?
Yes.
If you're talking about providing full wraparound services for people, I understand that, but but at some point, people do get out when they have been treated and rehabilitated.
Sure, but that didn't happen here. He didn't go to an institution at all.
But you're
and
advocating.
So he stabbed a woman.
Are
said
you
he should be locked away for life.
There's thousands and thousands of people in America, more than tens, hundreds of thousands, who have been diagnosed with schizophrenia that are walking around and that are.
Yes, Anna, that is exactly the problem. There are apparently scores of violent and mentally ill people roaming the streets where other people can easily become their victims. Now, it's totally plausible that somebody with more mild schizophrenia could be taking medication, which subdues hallucinations, which subdues certain urges. But it's also very common that schizophrenics will stop taking their medications. It doesn't feel very good. It feels numbing. Even people without schizophrenia with more mild mental disorders often stop taking their medications once they feel good. And then very quickly, they start feeling bad again. But the problem is that these people are so dysregulated that they're not aware that their delusions do not conform with reality. And so obviously there are a subset of people who are just not fit to live in society. And that's why historically we've had institutions. Now, Donald Trump signed an executive order, I believe, over the summer to reopen the institutions. And I think that that's great. Ever since the institutions closed, I think a lot of people with severe mental illness have turned to jail as a substitute. You go into jail, you get food, you get housing, you might even get some medication or some other medical treatment for whatever issues you've acquired on the street. But these panelists actually seem more offended by the suggestion that people with extreme schizophrenia and other extreme mental illnesses, which, preclude them from taking care of themselves and which might drive them to murder other people, should be locked up. They seem more offended by the idea that these people should be institutionalized than the fact that an innocent girl was slaughtered. And we've seen the same reaction from the mainstream media, which really did not want to cover this story. And when their hand was forced, they covered it as, GOP pounces on this murder, or they covered it from the angle that, it's ignited a MAGA firestorm. Now, note that they would never cover the George Floyd story from the angle of, George Floyd's death ignites radical left-wing firestorm, even though quite literally it did ignite some fires. But let's continue.
Leading fairly normal lives because they are under treatment.
A lot of people
so
who are mentally
are we going to lock
nonviolent.
up everybody with schizophrenia for life?
He demonstrated violent proclivities repeatedly.
You said he should be locked away for life for schizophrenia. That is what you said.
He should be institutionalized, yes. And if you're saying he should not, you're saying that young women like you and me are basically just, we're lambs into the slaughter. You go on public transportation in this city, that could happen to any single one of us.
I use public transit constantly. That is completely unhinged, frankly. People shouldn't be locked away for mental illness. They should be treated for it.
In an institution. Yes.
For life?
What's this?
Should be
isolated as long as they're
Oh my gosh. The other blonde girl is so insufferable. Irina also used public transportation very often, according to the statement issued by her family, and obviously her guard was down. I mean, she sat with her back to this guy, she had her headphones in, she was listening to music. No one anticipates that they're going to be the victim of a random stabbing. So yes, you can use public transportation without incident until that incident occurs. But what else would we expect from this panel? I mean, it's pretty clear that they value the freedom of career criminals to go out and commit crimes more than they value the safety of everyone else. And that's been the Democrat Party line for a long time. So I really shouldn't expect anything else, but I have to say that their apparent callousness towards this girl's murder is really pretty disturbing. So let me know what you think about this debate in the comments section below. Give this video a like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.